Hi, Analisa Six here with the Sober Curator and the Lady of Leisure to bring you the May 2023 horoscope for the zodiac sign of Libra for sun and rising sign placements. Hi, Libra, how are you? It's the day after the Scorpio eclipse, and I am really tired. I feel like I never get good sleep around full moons ever since I moved out to Yucca Valley, which is in Southern California. If you are unfamiliar, most people know of Joshua Tree and Pioneer Town, and Yucca Valley is like the main town in that little area. And that's where I live. And when I used to live in the Bay Area, I lived in Oakland prior to moving here for almost 9 years. I was really into doing rituals for every lunar event, and I would do a lot of rituals during eclipses, and I just don't ever remember having such a hard time with sleep during a full moon. And so I don't know if there's something about the fact that it's just like so visible in the sky here, and it shines through both of my bedroom windows when it's happening, which is awesome. But it's just, if there's a full moon, I am not sleeping well. And even though I had a really deep sleep, it took me a long time to fall asleep, which only happens to me during a full moon now. And I also woke up just feeling so tired and groggy, and I'm still super tired and groggy. So I'm trying to get through all the rest of the horoscope videos today. And I'm starting with you, Libra, the seventh sign of the zodiac. And I'm just apologizing in advance if I'm a little bit out of it and tired. I'm so sensitive to that kind of stuff. And then I was kind of busy yesterday. So yeah, my hair is clean. I washed it, but it's just doing some interesting things. It needs to be colored again, and yeah, just all kinds of things. I'm not gonna worry about it. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into the month of May for you. It's already the 6th, so we're almost already a full week into May, and we had that eclipse happening yesterday. I'm just going to scale back and talk about the beginning of May, because we had some things that now, by the time that I'm talking about it, we've kind of already shifted out. But, it's good to kind of reflect on the first few days of May and see if any of this was, if it resonates for you. Because obviously it's a generic general reading for, the sun and rising placements in a horoscope way. But obviously where this stuff hits in your personal chart has more to do with how it is affecting you. So take what you want and leave what you don't want, and just hopefully it's a fun little synopsis on the month. So we started out May in a little bit of rocky territory. We're still currently in a Mercury retrograde cycle in the sign of Taurus, which is the fixed earth sign of the zodiac. And so that has a lot to do with our relationship to the material earth and material things, especially things related to our bodies, health, work, finances, that kind of stuff. And Mercury, on the second day of May, made what is called a cazimi to the sun. So Mercury and the sun were both in Taurus, and they made a conjunction, which is called a cazimi. And so if you felt like communication and plans and just the way that May got off to a start was just a little rocky and felt a little unstable, and like things weren't quite happening the way that they should, that definitely played a part. Venus was still finishing up her cycle in Gemini over this first week, and she's actually going to be entering Cancer, I believe tomorrow. Let's see. Yeah, she's entering Cancer tomorrow. And so today is essentially Venus's last day in the sign of Gemini. And, Gemini is an air sign, it's mutable air, and it makes the trine aspect to Libra. Air likes air. So having Venus in Gemini was really positive for you over the last month that it was in Gemini. She entered Gemini in April. It looks like around April 11th. And so a little under a month that she's been in Gemini. And the area that was hitting for you was the area that has to do with a lot of our relationship to belief systems and academic structures, in terms, not necessarily in terms of academics, like some of the stereotypical ways that we see academia, but learning more in kind of a higher minded way. So things that we maybe study abroad for, or travel the world to learn, or spiritual pursuits. Some of these kind of ways that we are seeking knowledge and information about the world that kind of makes us feel more, whole inside, or like we have a better understanding of the world or ourselves through other cultures, things like that, or just a fascination with learning more about something that we've been interested in, is highlighted with Venus passing through that area. Venus through that area can also lend itself towards long distance travel. So if you had the travel bug over the last month and Mercury retrograde was kind of in conflict with that a little bit, that was probably a little bit frustrating. But, at the same time, Venus is really beneficial. And so it wasn't necessarily a negative thing. If you did end up going on any trips, it probably was really fulfilling. But once she enters Cancer, so that's going to happen on the 7th, tomorrow, she's going to be entering the area of your career. And so this is also a really positive energy for you, because you've had Mars passing through this area since the end of March. And Mars in the area of career makes things a little bit turbulent. And so things feel like they are amplified quite a bit. And maybe we feel really driven and goal oriented to be trying to push ourselves in our career, but it might still be happening in a challenging way, especially because Cancer is a cardinal sign, and so is Libra. And Libra and Cancer make what's called a square to each other. And squares cause tension and friction in the chart. And so there's usually challenges when we have a square happening to us. So, Mars in Cancer is already not a strong energy in terms of something that's comfortable. Mars is considered to be in detriment in Cancer. And so we're more inclined to feel insecure or sensitive or take things personally in a way where we have to really work through how can we be vulnerable and honest in a healthy way? How can we deal with our emotions and take good care of our emotions in a way that's healthy and not self-destructive or destructive to other people? And because it's in the area of career, you might have been feeling competitive in your career. You might have felt easily triggered at work. You might have had some conflict around how certain things made you feel at work or in your work life. And so there's an opportunity for some kind of healing or resolution to happen with Venus entering the space. And Venus will be here until the first week of June. And so pretty much starting tomorrow, May 7th, and then until about June 5th, she's going to be passing through Cancer and hopefully helping to ease some of that conflict or tension that Mars has been happening in this area for you. This square still happens to Libra because, again, there's a cardinal square that's happening, but Venus brings resolution, and she's also your ruling planet. She rules Libra. And so it's a little bit better of an energy in terms of trying to find your way through some of these feelings, trying to find out how to, maybe not see everything as a problem and see it as an opportunity for growth and for learning. It's an opportunity for you to learn how to maybe heal relationships through your work life. Venus rules relationships. So if you were having conflict with a coworker or a client or a boss, this is an opportunity for you to learn, grow, and heal and move on while Venus is passing through this area. Venus in the 10th house can also bring benefits when it comes to money. So if you've been wanting to make more money or get a promotion or a raise, or if you work for yourself and you've been thinking about raising your rates, Venus supports all of those things when she's passing through the 10th house of the chart. Another thing that we're going to be experiencing is Mercury finally leaving its retrograde and stationing direct. I don't know why I found that funny. For some reason, I don't know, I'm tired. I have like that weird tired jollies where things that aren't that funny seem kind of funny. But Mercury is going to station direct on the evening of the 14th, and then we'll be in about a week-long period of the shadow. But by the 21st, we're kind of starting to leave that shadow period of the retrograde, and we are experiencing more of this direct motion where we've been feeling maybe stifled or stuck. And Taurus is in the area of the Libra horoscope. It's in the house that has to do with shared resources and assets. And so if you were dealing with your finances in a way that involved other people or financial institutions, and there's been a lot of communication around that, maybe some, discrepancies or setbacks, hopefully once Mercury is direct, you're going to be kind of, feeling that stuff become more clear and move forward more. And the eclipse that happened on the 5th, so we had an eclipse yesterday on the 5th that was also highlighting the areas of finances and shared assets and resources for you, and also your sense of self-worth and stability in the world. And so yesterday, May 5th, if you had anything kind of, shed there, if there was light that got shed on something, or if you were, kind of, some kind of area was resolved that has been in conflict, or some kind of epiphany about something that needed to happen, that could have happened around the 5th, whether that was yesterday on the actual 5th or the day before or today. That's in the ether of your chart. Because Mercury is still retrograde in this area, it's still not 100% positive for you to do any kind of, big contractual decision making and signing any paperwork. So, they say during this time. And I agree with these things. It's hard when we have resolution during a Mercury retrograde, because we might kind of feel the resolution in the moment. But what happens oftentimes when we're solidifying something during a Mercury retrograde is that once Mercury is retrograde again, something that wasn't fully resolved will come back up, and you'll kind of be in this perpetual cycle of that thing not totally being resolved because Mercury was retrograde at the point of resolution. And I'm actually experiencing that on a personal level with a bunch of bureaucracy stuff that I'm like, do I share the whole story? Basically, I will share it as quickly as possible, but I sold my car during the Mercury retrograde in Capricorn, and my car is a Capricorn, or what, was a Capricorn, or is a Capricorn. And I didn't want to do that, but it was just the timing of our lives. It just made sense to do it. And I was like, am I really going to put this off because Mercury is retrograde? And so I sold it. And, when you sell your car to a dealership, they handle all of the release of liability for the DMV. And because it was Mercury retrograde, I knew that there was a possibility for discrepancies with that. And so I told the dealership, I said, I know that this is something that you guys handle, but I'm worried that there's going to be a problem with this. So I want to make sure that I also fill the paperwork out and send it to the DMV so that it's handled on both ends and there's no discrepancies. And the dealership kind of argued with me about it. And they were like, no, we do this all the time. It's fine. Nothing bad will happen, whatever. And I was like, yeah, I know it sounds like I'm being crazy, but Mercury's retrograde. I'm an astrologer. I'm not going to take this lightly. So that's what I did. I signed all the paperwork for them. I got copies of it. And then I went and did my own paperwork for the DMV. Did any of that work? No, it didn't. I actually have to go to the DMV on Monday, which it's Mercury retrograde still on this coming Monday, and figure out why the 3 times that I've submitted release of liability paperwork, it has not gone through on the DMV side. And another thing that happened, the reason why I know it hasn't gone through is that whoever bought my car has been getting tickets, and I'm receiving the tickets because my name is still on the DMV paperwork. And I got a notification that one of the tickets was going to collections. And here's the real kicker, is that I've sent the paperwork to all of the government institutions where these tickets are coming from. I followed all of their advice on, oh, if you don't own this car anymore, send us proof of release of liability and that the car has been sold. So I've called them and I've sent it to them. I've emailed it to them. I've mailed it to them. And I'm still getting notices that this hasn't been resolved. And so for me, this is now the 2nd time in my life where I haven't listened to Mercury retrograde advice, which as an astrologer, you'd be like, why are you still beating your head against this wall, where I've had discrepancies. I also opened a bank account for a business during a Mercury retrograde, and we had issues with that bank account all the time. And also during every Mercury retrograde, those things came up. I still get mail sometimes from that bank during Mercury retrograde. So those are some examples, right? Where it's like in the moment when I was sold my car, everything went fine. I sold the car during Mercury retrograde. And so I was like, well, that was fine. It wasn't too bad. Mercury retrograde, whatever. But now, that was back in January and it's May now, and I'm still having problems with it. And now I'm having to deal with it during Mercury retrograde. So when we're giving advice as astrologers to not do big contractual signage of something during Mercury retrograde, when Mercury's passing through certain houses in your chart, like financial houses specifically. This is why, because there can be long-term discrepancies that you're dealing with. It doesn't mean they won't get dealt with eventually. It doesn't mean that it's not going to happen and that you're just going to be screwed forever, but it does usually mean that it's not going to happen as smoothly and you're not going to have this quick resolution. I mean, I can't believe that every time I bought or sold a car, well, not every time. The first time I bought a car, it was fine. But when I sold that car and bought a new car, tons of problems. And then selling this car, tons of problems. And it's just been, I've had really negative experiences making these types of decisions. So knowing that Mercury is retrograde through this area of your chart as a Libra rising, and that you're not really going to be in the clear until the 21st of May, I really highly advise to just hold off on doing any major financial contractual things if you can, because it's going to follow you, but most likely if you don't take that advice. So don't refinance anything. Don't buy a house. Don't buy a car. Don't sell a car. Don't sell a house. I know if you're already in it, you're in it. You just got to deal with it. But, you're better off waiting. All right, so that was my long story of warning, but I think it's helpful to share anecdotes when these things are happening. That's the thing about astrology, is you read a lot of stuff in books, but you don't really understand it until you go through it, right? So right after Mercury stations direct, Jupiter's going to be ending its cycle in Aries, which we've had for quite some time. And it's finally going to be moving into Taurus, where it'll be for the rest of the year. And so Jupiter's actually entering this exact same area of the chart that I was just talking about, where it has to do with shared assets and resources, financial institutions. It also has to do with marital partners and what else am I thinking of right now? Death. So when Jupiter enters this area of the chart, all of these things are coming up, they're all highlighted. And so this is going to be an area that's highlighted for you over the next year. And Jupiter brings abundance, but it also brings growth, and not all growth feels beneficial, even if it leads us to beneficial things later on down the line. So, again, you're going to have a big emphasis on this area of your life for the next year. If you're planning on getting married, that's emphasized and might be something really positive for you. If you're splitting finances, if you're getting divorced and splitting finances, that's also another side of the coin. It's like Jupiter here can mean that you're getting married and taking on shared assets and resources, but it can also mean when you're getting divorced that there's also a dissolvement and kind of a figuring out of those shared assets and resources. Both can be true. There also can be a highlight on inheritance through death. So somebody could pass, and there could also be inheritance gained over the year through that when this is passing through this area. And again, this is a horoscope. And so, these things are more accurate in a personal birth chart. So if you're a Libra rising in your birth chart, this is more accurate for you than a Libra sun person in terms of this Jupiter placement. But, horoscopes still have their place, and it's still possible that that's somewhat relevant for the Libra sun horoscope as well. Mars is going to be entering Leo shortly after Jupiter enters Taurus, and Mars has been in Cancer. So we talked about Mars in that position of the career, and now with Mars entering Leo on the 21st, it's going to be entering the area that has to do with your community and how you are a member of your community. And so Mars again brings some challenges. It's not an easy planet wherever it is, but Mars in the fire signs, Mars rules Aries, and when it's in a fire sign, it's a little bit in a better place than when it's in a water sign outside of Scorpio, because Mars is also ruler of Scorpio. But Leo is a very social energy. It really likes to have community and connection with people, and it really seeks to gain recognition or validation from community. And so Leo also makes a harmonious aspect to Libra. It sextiles Libra. Leo and Libra really like each other. And so you might be feeling a desire to get recognition from your community or connect with your community in a way that validates your sense of self. Excuse my dogs. They see a squirrel in the yard and I and reinforce them getting excited. Hey, Bruce, Bam Bam, Brucey, we're going to leave it right now. They'll probably calm down, I hope. Sometimes that works. But yeah, so you're kind of in a position where having Mars and Leo here amplifies your desire to connect to community and get recognition from community. You have to be careful in this to not get competitive with people in a negative way. I think of the 5 of Wands card when Mars is in Leo, and I'll try to find an image of the 5 of Wands here. I know I could Google it, but it might be nice to have here we go. Knew I had it close. So the 5 of Wands is people that are having creative competition with each other. And, sometimes that can happen in a fun way. And sometimes it happens in a really negative way that hurts your relationship with community. And so you have to be really mindful where, you can find inspiration through other people and have that ignite your ambition in a way to do better and be better and more creative. But if you're somebody where you're doing that because you feel unworthy or there's kind of this desperate need for attention, then it starts to manifest in unhealthy ways. And if jealousy and envy and this kind of internal dissatisfaction or rage towards other people's success is what's driving you, that's not going to make you a successful person in your relationships with other people. That's going to be really damaging to your relationships with other people in your community because people feel that stuff. I think that sometimes people who have that nature think that they're hiding it well, and they're really not. That there's a frequency of energy that people who are perpetually jealous and envious and reactive carry in their aura. And those of us that don't do that stuff and don't like doing that stuff, we feel it exuding off of them, and it's repulsive. It's very much like, whoa, I'm not trying to have that relationship with you. I'm not trying to have that tension with you. Calm down, is how it feels. And if you are somebody that has those problems and those issues, I'm not saying that you're a bad person. I'm not saying that that's something that you have to feel, like people don't like you because of it, but it is something that hurts relationships and makes people feel bad about themselves. And so it's something where if you carry that energy quite frequently, it might be something that during this Mars and Leo through this area of the chart, you need to sit and work through. How do I work through having more constructive relationships with people in my community where I can be happy for people's success and inspired by them, and while also inspired? I guess that's what I just said. Instead of being competitive. When I was really young, because I'm a Leo, and I definitely had friends growing up that I was envious of when I was a little kid. And my best friend, she was beautiful and cool and fun. And I would see her getting a lot of attention from other kids that, I guess I was also getting, but I remember thinking that I wasn't getting it because I had a skewed perception of myself. I had a lot of insecurities that I wasn't cool too, like her. And my mom, I would tell and this is when I was really little, it's like elementary school. And I would tell my mom, that I felt bad about myself in this way and that I was envious. And my mom nipped that energy in the butt really fast with me. She was like, you don't want to be a jealous person. You don't want to be an envious person with your friends. It's not healthy. It's not constructive. When you start to feel those feelings, turn it into inspiration and find a way to be happy for your friends, because those are your people. Like, they are going to support you and love you when you're successful, if you also support and love them when they're successful. And you are lovable, and people also like you, and you have other things to bring to the table. So be happy for your friend, and she can be happy for you, and you don't have to make it into this rivalry thing. And of course, as little kids, we don't really understand why we have those feelings or, where that nature comes from. And now with my astrology background, I can understand how different signs or different people tend to be more prone to those feelings. And there's an archetype that some people possess more than others. And then there's transits that happen that can trigger that stuff, right? And so I think that my mom doing that for me when I was really young was really constructive, because it really helped my relationships as I got older, in middle school, elementary school, later on, and also my adult relationships. And one of the things that it's helped me with is that I'm surrounded by really amazing, successful people that do super cool things. And it just inspires me. And it makes me feel good. I genuinely feel happy and positive and good when I see the people in my life winning at the things that they're doing. And that's such a more constructive and better feeling than having negative, toxic, jealous, envious feelings about things. And I've known a lot of adults who were not taught that have really difficult relationships with people because they're still living in a state of envy and jealousy and negativity around other people's success. And it's just it's not a constructive way to live your life, and it's really damaging, and it makes other people have a hard time showing up for you and want to support you. But like I would say that one of the ways that this card can be utilized, and Mars and Leo can be utilized in a positive way, is when you see somebody that is kicking ass at something that you also want to kick ass at. My first inclination is to want to be their friend because I want to learn from them. I want to be like, wow, you're doing something really badass and I want to be a part of it. I want to help you. I want to support you. And I also want to be a part of it. And so, being inspired and wanting to contribute to the coolness of what somebody is doing, or buying their things, or giving them money for their things, or propping them up on social media, like being a cheerleader essentially for those people that inspire you, is a good way to channel that energy into a more positive kind of realm. And the Five of Wands, I think, can do that. I think you can have healthy competition that's fun, in the context of some things, and also be inspired. I think a lot of people in bands together do that. Like you have guitar players that kind of like to show each other up in a fun way, not in a shitty way. But there are people that do it in a shitty way, and those people end up not being able to work together anymore, right? So Mars and Leo might bring a lot of that kind of stuff up for you. And if you don't have those issues and you're already more elevated in yourself, Mars and Leo might make you just want to take it to that next level where you're like, I want to reach this next level of success in my community or in my business. And I want to gain this level of recognition with what I'm doing in the world. Again, you have to be careful with that because, you have to make sure that those are things you actually really are ready for and that you want, because that type of success can also bring a lot of pressure. It can bring more work. It can bring more expectations that people have out of you. And so if you're not in a position where you actually want that amount of responsibility or accountability to other people, be mindful with how much you try to generate into your ether in that way. There's a lot of aspects that we have between the planets happening in most of the water signs towards the end of the month. And that whole period is going to be talked about in the May. Well, I talked about it in the May astrology forecast. So I would recommend listening to that for those more specific aspects. But it's a really great time for you when it comes to your work. And so your career and your work stuff is really highlighted, and the way that you're of service in your community is really highlighted for the month of May. That same time period that Mars is entering Leo, we are also entering Gemini season. And so again, you're going to have this kind of highlight on the work that you're doing and the way that you're teaching and learning and growing from the work that you're doing in the world. And this is also an area that the sun is going to be highlighting that has to do with your beliefs and values. And so you might be in a period of really leaning into the things that you value in your belief systems, but you also might be in a period of questioning whether or not you still have the same beliefs and value systems. If you're thinking about signing up for a course or a class during Gemini season, that's definitely supported. So the last half of May, first half of June, doing a course of some kind is supported for you. We also have a new moon that is happening on the 26th. I'm sorry, I got way ahead of myself. That is in June. And it's not the 26th. Let me backtrack. Here's where me getting tired is coming in. May 19th. So right before this Mars moving into Leo and the sun moving into Gemini, we'll have a new moon in Taurus at 28 degrees of Taurus. And again, this is the same area that's hitting where we were talking about Jupiter and Mercury retrograde, those shared resources, assets, marriage, death, all that kind of stuff. And, this area also represents our connection to our sexuality. New moons are all about setting intentions and calling things in to our lives. And so this is a positive time to set intentions around that area. So, if you are in a relationship and your shared resources and assets or something that you guys are working through, setting intentions on healthy communication around that is good. Setting intentions around any kind of investments or loans or refinancing money stuff that you're doing. It's good. This is a good money magic kind of time. And also you're like, if you're in a union with somebody where you're sharing resources, setting intentions towards that union being positive is really positive. So, you know, if you're wanting to make that union stronger with the way that you're, you know, if you want to get married, if you're already planning on getting married, or if you're already married, but there's, you know, things within the way that you share your money and the way you talk about that stuff that you want to improve upon, that's also a really good thing to set intentions towards. And your sexuality. I think Vesta is also in this mix. I'm actually gonna make sure and see if that's true. Let's see what the day is, May 19th. Yeah, so Vesta is not going to be conjunct necessarily this new moon, but Vesta is still in Taurus in this area of the chart, and it is going to be pretty close to Uranus. And so we do have, you know, this emphasis on sacred sexuality with Vesta in this area, and, you know, wanting to kind of heal our relationship to our sexuality or work on our relationship to our sexuality. And so that's also something during this new moon that is positive for you to focus on. I think that I spent a good time talking about your horoscope, Libra. There's some good themes here for you to reflect on. And again, if you want a specific synopsis on specific transits that are happening for the month of May, feel free to watch the May 2023 astrology forecast that's in this playlist. And if you liked your horoscope or have any comments on what you thought about it, make sure to leave one in the comment section or hit the like button. If you want to get notifications on your future horoscopes or any videos that I'm doing, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. And I hope that you have a wonderful month. I hope that it's fruitful, and I hope that you enjoyed your horoscope. All right, I'll see you next month.